Good morning, good afternoon. LinkedIn back for another episode of trying to use HubSpot to help build audience and custom experience, personalized experiences, all that stuff we're told HubSpot can just do. Turns out there's some work involved, and Mr. Oakes has been taking us through that. How you doing today, man?
I am doing all right. Hot here, but it's going to be fine.
Where's here again?
Nashville, and it
Hmm.
has just been a super hot, moist summer.
Well, we're gonna take that hot and moist energy and put it into some spicy playbook action today. Playbooks that actually work. Put our people in a position to do what the customers are expecting and know who they are before maybe they get on the call for the first time. So I'm really excited to chat about this with you today.
Yeah, something I'm going to, on this LinkedIn Live, I'm going to share a LinkedIn post because I heard you like LinkedIn on your LinkedIn. I said this on LinkedIn last week. This is something that I encounter all the time, both as a, you know, coach, consultant, mentor, working with companies, but also as a customer of companies, right? Which is we have marketing teams that do all of this like super rich content and experiences, particularly for the area that I focus on is what I call high friction purchase decisions. So like, you know, not going to the store and buying toothpaste, but like bigger, higher risk decisions that people have to make. And so we do all of this stuff on the marketing side to try to help people along the journey, to position the offering, to help people qualify or self-select or figure out which of our solutions is right for me. And we so often think about like um, the alignment, hopefully, the alignment between the marketing experience and the audience. We think about distribution, we think about repurposing, we think about what tools the audience needs to make a more informed decision. And we have a huge gap between the data that we collect beyond like page views and lead score and these kind of default CRM properties and calculations, and what we actually then hand off as we transition the prospective customer from a top of funnel, middle of funnel awareness consideration kind of phase of their journey into like a phase of the journey where they're interacting with salespeople, right? So what that means is, uh, if we're lucky, what we send to people is, an SDR gets on a discovery call or a qualifying call or whatever with a prospect, and they see like, oh, they're an MQL, or they see like, oh, lead score is above 25 or whatever your scale is, right? And that's a really bad experience for the customer. It's a bad experience for the SDR. The SDR has to say, their first question is like, so tell me what brought you here, right? And it's like, well, I've done like 6 calculators, 2 configurators. I downloaded 5 of your white papers. And what we don't, and those things it's good to know those transactional things, but we hopefully learn something about the prospect during those interactions. And one of the first things here that we're going to talk about playbooks here, right? Which is this is the marketing journey on the top and the sales journey here, and our, again, information that we should be acquiring about customers along the way. And we can log things like what CTA they interacted with, what like research content they've been looking at on the site. We can look at how long they've been on a journey, which of our self-service tools, our configurators, our are like self-matching, like fit matching tools they've interacted with. But it's not just valuable to know, did they interact with that? We need to present all of that in a digestible way for the people who are getting on the phone or on a video call with these hopefully qualified prospects for the first time, right? And there's lots of ways to do that, but one of the I think a really valuable way that once we get it going, uh, uh, I get a lot of like positive feedback from reps on is playbooks. So
Yeah.
we're going to
And
take a look at that real quick. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that, like that's exactly what came to mind. This is one of those tools that's very hard to explain. Can be much easier to show because when we're trying to explain concepts, and as you're starting, that's like, then you just show that clipboard. It's like that experience is why it does not compute for a sales team, a sales leader, or a business leader when we say things like marketing's job is to do the convincing, right? Sales job is to do the help buy. Like all this stuff has marketing's done its job to convince, and that's why they're talking to sales. But when all you get as a salesperson is qualified, like I feel like I have to. I don't know
Right.
that they're bought in yet. I don't know like what they've done. Um, I don't know that they're convinced. So it is my job because that's what I'm used to doing. And tools like this just go. But since there's such a disconnect there, you gotta show this and be like, if you could have this and you trusted all the information on it, that would be good for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and tools like scoring are super important. But what's the number one thing that a rep asks when you show them a score
Hmm.
on the contact, right? Like, well, what does that mean? Like, how do they get to that score? Like, what's a good score? And and you can set up parameters for that, but it's still like, if your qualification score or your fit score is 0 to 100, they're like, okay, right, sure. So if I see someone on my list that says 50, that means they're not as good a fit as somebody who says 90. But like, I can't go look up what I think the combination of interactions might have produced at 90 to go into this conversation prepared, right?
Yeah,
And,
because all of this,
and
like, if we're doing our job, like, and this is seriously the job of HubSpot, is to communicate successfully, externally, internally, to create these experiences that are gonna close deals and create loyal customers and champions and all that stuff. Um, and as we do that, uh, reducing the friction inside, like with tools like playbooks, the whole idea is that now I jump in, I could be like cold, like, the guy who usually gets it out, usually gets to it is out, and there is a, hot lead that comes in, right? Whatever I see, whether it's 50, 90, whatever signal I'm getting that I need to put in effort to move it forward, I need to know exactly what I should be doing in that step. And if I just see 50 and 90 and I do 90 once and then I do the 50 and I have no idea what I need to do to fill in that
right,
40-point gap, that's not a helpful number for me.
right, yep, exactly. And the playbooks can be mismanaged in that same way, right? Like, if you a, a lot of negative reaction to playbooks uh, comes from like we need to get our act together about what we're asking and collecting data on calls, which is 100% a valid use of playbooks. But if it's only look, you better check the boxes so that we are getting what we need, you're going to have some inherent resistance. Part of playbooks are a powerful enough tool that they can deliver value to everybody involved in the equation, right? You get more consistent qualification of prospects, which hopefully helps you close good fit and turn away bad fit more often, rather than just trying to get everybody you can over the line. It delivers more value for the organization because you are able to sort of normalize within your expected parameters what your calls cover, and it delivers value for the person conducting the call, whether it's an SDR or rep or it's internal, that you are getting like a cheat sheet or whatever of like, here's an easy way to do all the things that you need to do, check all the boxes you need to check. It's there to support you and keep you informed, right? And a lot of the pushback comes from either treating them like a HR level compliance tool, or from, frankly, like, starting with the default playbooks in HubSpot, which are kind of more like examples and not like fantastic content, right?
Right.
Um, and not thinking like, okay, well, what does our organization need here, right? And involving everybody, both
Yeah.
like back to the clipboards, right? Like both marketing and sales should be able, as a place where their organizations overlap, they should both be figuring out what they need and is needed from the playbooks. So I'm going to pull up, I'm going to actually, let's pull in. This is a sandbox. I'm not going to show any real customer data here, but so I've got a contact here, and we're going to role play that I'm a rep or an SDR who is having the first qualifying call with this prospect. So I'm going to open up the playbook. And what I have here, this is the, again, default HubSpot BANT qualification playbook. They have their kind of default questions. Do you have budget? Do you have authority? Do you have need? What's your timing? Right? Pretty basic. And if that's what you give to your reps the first time you ship them a playbook, they're probably gonna be like, oh yeah, this is great, thanks a lot. And then the eye rolling on the shared Slack channel among the reps is going to be so loud that somebody will think that a garbage truck is pulled into the lobby.
Yeah. Oh
So
man.
this is just an example of the kinds of things that we can pull into a playbook experience, which gives reps I'm on the phone, I can't go click a bunch of places in HubSpot and remember where stuff is stored, even if my records or my workspaces are tightly honed, right? Every call along a sales process has a different set of information that is important to be surfaced. So you can't configure your workspaces for all of those parameters, but you have a lot more flexibility configuring playbooks for that. So I've opened my qualifying, and this happens to be qualifying with friction factors. And so what we have here, just as a primer at the top, is some custom or some properties that were accrued by this contact during their marketing journey. So we have their ICP, or in our Who First terminology, their audience profile was set using interactions during that experience. So if somebody fires this up and they could see like, okay, this is my first rodeo, who we know is a first-time buyer of this solution, and we have a couple of other characteristics. And I love to have in these a link to an internal hub where all of those ICPs are defined with their traps, their gates, all of the kind of different parameters that we know, so that if you are taking over, or you are new to the organization, or if you are if it's a new profile that you've identified, they can click out and get immediate access to the definition of that profile. We've got we've got an internal, or excuse me, we've got a self-assessment kind of tool that identifies friction factors, which are things that slow down or inhibit making a purchase decision. They're like, sales objections happening during the sales process. Friction factors are decision-wide. So this person took that assessment on the afternoon of August 20th, and that assessment determined that they have these two things slowing down their decision-making process. And last but not least, we have traps, which are aspects of their audience profile that we've identified. Um,
This is beautiful.
yeah,
Uh,
so go ahead
and
and ask questions because I'm going to whirlwind us through some more stuff here.
yeah, uh, if you're watching this and you've ever thought that sales enablement was like a buzzword or phrase, uh, this is what that looks like, right? Like putting the sales, enabling the sales team with data, with all the tools. It'd be like, if you're selling, like a hard good, and it's like, hey man, get ready to fix this product, but all your tools that you need are just everywhere else in the building. So good luck finding it in a short amount of time. Good luck actually solving the problem. Good luck actually doing what I'm asking you to do. Right. This is enablement. And if you're not using tools like this, um, like please stop thinking that you don't need to do enablement. This is an important part of the journey, and if you're already in HubSpot, for sure, things like this are at your fingertips, and it just takes the decision to do it. Right? That's why we're here, taking you through it.
Yep. Um, the there's it's not a silver bullet, of course. You and I are totally on the same page because if you ship this and you don't involve your sales leadership and team in defining your ICPs and validating them and helping them understand who they are, figuring out what they need in order to be successful, then you put this in the playbook and they're gonna be like, oh, thanks, that's super helpful. And again, Slack channel is going to be like, what is this person's problem? Um, but like we're trying to, even if like I'll close this out, right? Like over here in this record, we've got audience profile set. We have the roll up of the last friction factors that were scored on their assessment. We have some other properties that we'll look at here in a second. But if somebody's on a call, they're trying to engage and actively listen and ask good questions of the prospect. Their brain hopefully is like 80 to 95% engaged in that process. And they can't be like, oh, I've got to click, where is it? What view is that in? Oh, shoot, I'm on the company record, whatever, right? You've got to put that stuff at their fingertips, save them the mental work, like, oh, it's in HubSpot is not a good enough answer, right? It's a shared responsibility of you putting it where they can get to it within the right context, like a playbook when they need it. They're going in deep on a call, and them using it, right? It's both parties have responsibilities. So just I will show a couple of things here as well, which is like you can also use like for example traps. This is the Who First framework. This is a facet of these profiles. We've said that we've determined that this, through their interactions, that this prospect has first steps, which means that they think that they believe that they have to do some actions before they would be able to make a decision, whether it's like, oh, I need next budgeting season, or I need to see when our existing vendors contract expires. I need to build buy-in with the rest of the organization, whatever, right? It's like, I can't decide until I've done something first. So we know we have something to deal with there. And then coping means it's a trap. That means they have a solution that they're willing to cope with for now, even though it's suboptimal. So we've surfaced something for the rep to know going into the call. Like, okay, so we know that between it's my first purchase, I have these friction factors. We won't go into those in depth right now. And we have these. We kind of have a playbook for what we believe this context mindset is pre-purchase. And so we don't have to sit and wait for those objections to get surfaced. And then like, you know, 2 months from now, we hear like, well, our contract isn't expired yet. We're like, no, they know what to ask for. We also can use the playbook. This is an enterprise feature, but to reiterate, like, did you uncover any new traps? We think they have first steps in coping, and if if it turns out they don't have coping, but they do have some of these others red lights and they
Yes.
foresee we can go wrong, we can augment that here, right?
So
Um,
much of this, like especially with playbooks, like nobody is trying to turn the sales team into robots or give
right,
them scripts, right? Just because it came from over here doesn't mean it's like gospel, right?
right,
All of this stuff can be done in a way where it's you still have value as a salesperson. We're not replacing
yeah,
you. Like you've still got to confirm some of this stuff. And that's where from the customer's experience, the fact that you are confirming instead of asking again, right, goes a long way. And that turns from
for
it's bad
sure.
friction to good friction. It's still
Yes,
friction, right? That is needed, but very different perspectives that have a
yep.
massive difference.
And like, I love doing this where we validate this information because marketing, we haven't talked to somebody probably, right? But we have hopefully, again, they've gone through some self-service tools or some configurators or some, whatever, these, any kind of experiences, or they convert on an ad campaign to a landing page with a CTA to a nurture campaign or whatever that is around a specific problem or a specific angle on the problem or a specific attitude toward the problem. Like that's one we have here, Tiger or Trophy, and Who First we talk about whether someone is trying to avoid pain predominantly or whether they are reaching for maximization. So are you using like what kind of language are they responding to in those campaigns? So if they have a like, you know, never never lose money again uh, is with a campaign they responded to versus something else like take control of your accounts payable or whatever, right? That's a maximizing, that's a trophy language.
Yeah. And this
Having
is
that
where,
validated in conversation by the rep and then providing notes like, oh, they love the take control language around AP solutions, whatever. Um,
yeah. And
Getting
when
that
we,
kind of feedback is like, I mean, if I'm working with a director of marketing and VP of marketing, and we can get, you know, I mean, depending on the size of the pipeline, but if you can get 10 to 20 playbooks logged with basic insights like
mm,
this, or like either whether it's validating or invalidating our messaging, even, right? Like, they are trophy, they're maximizing, but they're like, oh, they're more interested in this other thing. I asked them about the take control language and they were like, yeah, but what I really care about is X, right? Like, talk about insights that marketing can use to serve sales better, right? Like, I
yeah.
love getting that kind of stuff from the sales team,
Oh
right?
man, it's amazing because what immediately comes to mind, it's like, oh, sales doesn't tell us what's going on. Like,
Right,
why won't they use the system? And that's like when we were talking about the score earlier. Like, if you want me to use this, there's an element of understanding, but then also trusting the information on
right,
it, right? And if you show me that it's going to be valuable for me, I'm going to give you all the information that you want. I'm going to use the tool. And even when I talk to organizations about, distribution, like all these sales channel setups, where it's like, why won't they give us more data? It's because you
right,
haven't shown them, one, you're going to do anything with the data or it's going to help them, right?
right. And
And this is
and
beautiful.
the one of the another common failure mode here, right, is you somehow get everybody out of sales calls and get them in a Zoom room, and you're like, hey, we just really want to like hear what's working and what's not, and we got 30 minutes here before you all have to be on more calls. Can you just like give us a rundown of like everything you know about customers, right? And that's like having 30 minutes, somebody saying like, tell me everything you know about history. It's like, oh,
Right.
like 1066 was a thing, and also 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Yeah.
War of
Or it's
1812,
like,
that's history, right? You
yeah,
can't access that, like,
right.
um, and
Or
they
it's
had
like, this
20
happened
calls
yesterday.
today. Right. Yeah.
right?
That's the other thing is whatever's top of mind. I just got off a call where somebody was mad because they didn't think they converted because they thought that the campaign was for consumer or something. They've heard of our brand before, right? It's like, okay, thanks.
Yeah. Then one
I mean,
data point
we want to
turns
know
into
that, but it's not super actionable, right? Like a
right.
person was confused. Like, okay, thanks. Um,
Yeah. So let's change the
but
whole strategy
right.
so this one data
Or
point gets solved.
usually, right, like you just ignore it. You're like, oh yeah, that's going to happen because you can't action it, and then sales feels like you don't listen to them, right? But
Yeah.
if you were to, if you playbooks are a tool at scale to come alongside and collect this information, if you can, again, like meet in the middle, establish trust, show them how this can be useful to them and what you want to do with what you learn, right?
Yeah. Because
And
again,
then
we're
close the
not
loop when you learn something.
right. We're not even suggesting to replace that 30 minutes. Like, definitely get that 30 minutes. But this is how you make that 30 minutes valuable. You're coming
Yes.
in with data that is black and white. And then all the questions you're asking are, again, a reconfirmation that everybody is on the same page about the data that we should know.
Yeah.
Like, this is known information, not off the top of anybody's heads.
Yep. So let's show this real quick, and I'll talk about some of the use cases that are really useful. So this is just the configuration of that playbook, and all I've done here is these, you know, audience profile is set on their contact record as a property. The HubSpot has a built-in persona field, which would property, which would work fine for this, but it's a little quirky. So I always create a dedicated audience profile, which is a drop-down select that contains our defined profiles, ICPs
Yeah,
that we've
definitely check
jointly
out
determined.
last week's or the last episode we did. Like, all
Yeah,
this information is coming from the strategic marketing plays of forms and emails and some properties. I think one property actually that
yep.
we showed how it was built.
And then the last date they submitted a friction factor assessment, and the outcomes of that are that's a custom object here, and it's got it's uh, it's like a calculator tool, like, and that is just a sync property to the contact. So the contact submits the assessment, a record is generated, and like it appears on the overview here as well. Like, here's the last one they
Oh
submitted was on
man.
the 12th, and here are the outcomes, right? And so we just pull that back to the contact so that it hits a contact playbook correctly with sync properties. That's a
I've got
little
some
more
ideas
advanced,
for
obviously,
that.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Use cases for this that are fantastic is like the ones that we've showed here, like a configurator or a self-service, or like which one's right for me. That's a great use of a custom object experience, even if you do the actual experience outside in like a kind of more robust form builder than HubSpot, like JotForm or something that allows you some more kind of flexibility. Create that data in a custom object, link it to the contact, pull it back in here. So anything like that where you are doing a multi-step data gathering with an outcome for a customer that should, or a prospect that should be contributing to your understanding of them. So log that and surface it in the relevant playbook, even if it's downstream from qualification. Um, Traps or pain points. You've got all the normal like demographic and firmographic stuff that you can collect, but a secret weapon here is hidden properties on any HubSpot forms that you can set either via URL parameter or set a default property and make the field hidden, so that if you have a form that's just reachable via a certain experience, right? So like, say you have um, a diagnostic that's just for executives, something, or that's related to an in-person experience, right? You can set parameters on those hidden properties on the form, pull them into the contact record, and have a one-to-one relationship that you can surface here in the playbook for things that we know about them, right?
Yeah.
Either
Signal
pass through the
based.
URL, right? Or like if you send out emails and you can put some URL parameters on the emails with seniority level, right? Or whatever, pass it through the form onto the contact record, surface it in the playbook. If that loop went outside of HubSpot at all, you can get it right back in the playbook and don't send people on a wild goose chase. So,
This is fantastic.
yep.
Man, I want to chat with you about friction factor strategy. That's it. Like signal, you hear a lot about signal based selling, and uh, the opposite of having that kind of detailed information is a lead score or a lead
Right.
status field.
Right.
So,
Or going out and beating the bushes, hoping that you ask the right question, right, of them in the 15 minutes or 30 minutes you have for discovery.
right. Well, this has been, man, you guys give me more value than I'm expecting, man. And I appreciate that. Uh,
Love it.
but yeah, these are tools like this is how we get more out of HubSpot, putting these things together. It's not a ton of build work, right? It's about putting the
Yeah.
strategy together, getting teams together, deciding collectively what does the journey look like? What should we be actioning on? Like whenever we hear this thing, we should do this thing. We know that happens in practice.
Yeah.
Let's standardize it a little bit and then take the next level of providing that customer experience that we know we want to, right? So as you think about your journey, and handoffs are always a place for opportunity
Yep.
like this. And so, definitely between marketing and sales, but if there's other handoffs and you're saying we've always got to call each other to figure out what real life is instead
Yeah.
of
The number
looking at the
two is
data.
between sales and like onboarding or success, right? That's maybe
Yeah.
the most painful handoff, right?
Yep, exactly. So as you think about where those are, what kind of pains your team is telling you they have, or what customers are telling you, look for some opportunities and let's grow. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye bye.